Hey, I'm Peter, and welcome to UCGC's review of Resident Evil 3. The world right now is kind of stuck in this perpetual state of anxiety with pandemic kind of hanging over us on every waking day, so I thought, what better game to play than RE3 Remake? Don't worry, we're going to do a review of Final Fantasy VII Remake, so stay subscribed to stay up to date with that. I'm particularly not a massive fan of the RE games. I've only played Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4, and I've had a major blast playing both of them. They're so awesome and fun that it catapulted me into wanting to learn more about the lore behind the franchise. So it only felt natural for me to seek out RE3. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding the game, and with its short playtime and different game style compared to RE2, but I'm looking at this from a different perspective. Somebody who doesn't know much about the original game and pretty much has zero nostalgia for any sort of game from before RE2 Remake. But here's how I feel overall about the game. This game is fun to play, and I had tons of fun experiencing the game, but I don't know if it was really worth a $60 price tag. So let's kind of explore why I feel this way. So like our Animal Crossing review, I will break this review down into 3 sections: what I liked, what I disliked, and what I hope for future installments in the Resident Evil Remake universe. So let's jump in with some positives. What I liked. First off, the visuals. This game is what I expect AAA games to look like going forward. It's quite remarkable that they could improve beyond what Resident Evil 2 Remake accomplished. Color accuracy, the lighting, the models with Jill, Carlos, and Nemesis are all a sight to behold. I would stand around just looking at the neon lights for hours because I was completely awestruck by the complexities of the visuals in this game. Everything looked polished to perfection. The developers really took advantage of the RE engine to make another visual accomplishment in gaming. The controls and the gameplay. Just like the RE2 Remake, the game focuses on a third-person perspective. The gunplay is quite good. It really felt good to kill a zombie because there was a sense of impact on the headshots and body shots. This game is very friendly to mouse and keyboard controls, and I kind of prefer it over the controllers as well. Inventory management has been improved slightly. They simplified controls and interface, making it feel a little more manageable than in RE2. And I am completely in love with the new dodging mechanic. It was a nice touch to add in this game. Really perfecting the dodges helped with encounters against zombies and Nemesis, and also really helped with doing stuff during speedruns for the campaign. And speaking of the campaign, I really enjoyed the story. I loved the dialogue and the story that was told throughout this entire game. Jill was just such a fun, spunky, badass officer. Carlos was a lovable goofball who flirted too much. Like, there's this one line that Carlos says to Jill where he calls her a tall glass of water, and holy crap, man. It is the flirtiest thing to say to somebody, and I think I might use it in real life. Everyone just kind of felt genuine in this game. Every cast member felt like a real person, or at least a real person in terms of the RE franchise. And even then, like, I was so engaged with the story behind Nemesis and Raccoon City before the events of RE2, and like, it just was it's such a good complementing experience to have played RE2 and played this game. That's a little something I want to touch on later on in the video. And even though this game is very fast-paced, the pacing still felt great, the story felt great, nothing really felt bogged down or rushed. So now let's move on to what I didn't like. First off, the level design is something I very much don't like in this game. To kind of compare it to RE2, the second half of RE2 was probably my least favorite part of the game. I really didn't like venturing into the sewers. It felt claustrophobic and narrow, to which I bemoaned running through it a second time. RE3 feels like that whole section. The entire game feels like that. Everything was linear and narrow, other than like the first section, which is like the downtown area, and maybe even slightly the hospital. Nothing is really striking or memorable. They disappear from memory as fast as they appear. Unlike RE2, this game was very easy to 100% with collectibles and scavenging as well. Like, nothing about the level made it difficult for me to want to adventure and find objects in this world. Nothing was particularly hard to find. The only section that had a slight difficulty increase was in the hospital, because there was the one-hit mutant zombies, and then there was the fact that you couldn't do certain sections with Carlos and you had to wait until your Jill. But overall, the layouts were kind of just linear with tight corners, which caused many situations to feel identical as the last one. One of the biggest disappointments is the boss battles and the boss in general. Nemesis was overhyped. That is a fact. People believed him to be the next Mr. X, but instead we got something kind of similar to George Romero or some of the walking around zombies from COD Zombies. Scripted sequences which allowed me to kind of time when I knew he was going to appear. There were brief pauses in the game where I was like, Nemesis is going to appear here, rather than me being afraid of when he might come around. And even outside of boss battles, he didn't present he wasn't presented as a force to be reckoned with. He was presented as somebody to get free upgrades. I would throw a single grenade and he'd go down. So I'd get a free upgrade, and then it would keep happening where I get more stuff and more items, making the game a lot easier for me to play. And even the boss battles were way too easy as well. All you had to do was use flammable rounds, and then once he was down, go up to your shotgun and blast him in the face. There was nothing special behind his fights. Now, I'm not saying RE2 had any better fights either, but I think what separates Mr. X from Nemesis is Mr. X was a force to be reckoned with throughout the entirety of the game. He was something that was like, he was always present in the game, or at least he felt always present, Mr. X, whereas Nemesis is only seen behind scripted scenes. He's not a character, he's not part of the world, he's part of the narrative. So, there's really nothing special behind fighting him. It was fun the first time, but like after the third or fourth time, it became a chore. His final fight is a little more challenging with the inclusions of zombies, and his final fight was just a big fan service to Jill's badassness by having her hold a railgun into his mouth to blast him away. Like, that stuff was cool, but it wasn't completely what I was hoping for. I think the fault kind of lies between the fans and the developers. Like, they wanted to hype up this really cool and inspiring villain, but he kind of just acted boring. Now, I really want to talk about the biggest issue with the game that a lot of people kind of are hinting at when they describe the game is the replayability. This game is very hard to replay. It's fast, and while I appreciate having a fast-paced game, it serves to harm the replayability of the game. My initial run was 5 hours of gameplay with a total of 8 hours. There is no incentive to go again, no extra levels or different perspectives. It's the same game with harder difficulty and less items, which really didn't feel difficult, especially if you timed your dodges correctly. I don't want to say that the length of the game is bad, 8 hours is fine, but that's if the replayability is worth going back to. Any unlockables you might want to collect are there, but they're really kind of minute. They're not important. And even after multiple playthroughs of the game to get all the upgrades, there's really no incentive to go back to use those upgrades because you've already played the game a lot. So overall, like I said, I really enjoyed the game. The combat was fun, and I honestly don't have an issue with the game's action-oriented style. The game is a fun experience for new players to the franchise, and it really complements RE2, something I mentioned before. And that's the thing. This game could have easily been a $20 to $25 DLC attached to RE2, rather than a full $60 game. I have no reason to return to RE3. I actually would rather replay RE2 because I know my experience with the game will be quite different upon replays in RE2 compared to RE3. If the developers invested more time in replayability, if the investors invested more time in replayability, I think I would be more content with the $60 price tag. But I'm not. I clocked in the game of a total of 12 hours, and I don't see that increasing anytime soon. I would recommend the game, but I would wait for a price cut. So as I mentioned before, I kind of want to step back and talk about how this game could be a lesson for future installments in this remake universe. At the time of writing this, the developers of the RE remakes have already been announcing that they're remaking RE4. Now that game is truly wonderful. Its gameplay has inspired every game under the sun since its inception. Now, I don't think the remake will live up to the hype of the original, but I want it to be so damn close. Here are some things that developers should learn from RE3 to make RE4 great. Stick to the original script, stick to the original story, but similar to how RE3 and RE2 and even Final Fantasy VII do it, add more story beats, add new elements to the game, add more elements to the story to fit this new established canon. That way it can increase the longevity of the game, increase the replayability, and make it a lot more fun to play entirely in its initial run. Don't cut anything either, and don't make it fast-paced. Kind of, like I was saying, stick to the script, stick to what the game is known for, and add things to it rather than take away. And lastly, make it with heart and not with dollar signs in your eyes. The problem with RE3 is that it really feels like they're just doing this for a cash grab. And it wouldn't feel that way if it was, say, a $20 experience on top of RE2, rather than a full $60 game that feels like a $20 game. So, overall, I'm really had a blast playing RE2, and I've had a good experience with RE3. I only wish I don't have to say I had an okay experience with RE4. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more UCGC reviews and more UCGC videos. Thanks for watching.